is where I think it's more challenging here, because I would say this before we get to how they improve. Like, you're not going to get 11. Odds are you're not getting 11 sacks out of your defensive tackle position next year. That's what you had with Hargrave. Now, Hargrave was limited against the run, but still. So you're losing that. You basically have 2 new safeties starting, and you have 2 new linebackers. It's just not fair to think that you're going to be better at those positions next year. I think there is a step back. The question is, how far is the step back? If the Kobe Dean shows you right away he can play, and Morrow's solid. Okay. I mean, you can get by with that. If Jalen Carter shows you that he is the most talented guy in the draft, like a lot of people would make a case for, even if you're not getting 11 sacks out of him, that's huge. Jordan Davis steps up. That's huge. But right now we don't know. We don't know about those spots, and we don't know about safety or linebacker.
Davis and Dean are going to be counted on heavily in terms of being fixtures in his defense. You cannot even use size or lack thereof when you talk about a Nakobe Dean, because we've seen the undersized linebacker in the National Football League prosper so much in today's game. He has the sideline lateral speed to get from point A to point B. He's a sure tackler. In the limited amount of times we've seen him play, he's made plays. He's been a disruptive factor. But now can he do it every down? When you're taking sporadic hits compared to taking hits every down, that's a little bit different mentally and physically. And with Jordan Davis, can he get his weight down? Can he control his weight? Can he stay on the field? A big guy like that who's had a concussion and ankle injuries in his first year and a limited amount of time that he's had to play, you've got to watch that closely. How are they going to utilize him? How many snaps is Desai going to play him? He played in the high 20s last year. Will that elevate to the 40s or 50s? And you're still saying, well, he's only playing half a game. But when you start playing 40 to 50% of the snaps, that's a significant part of the game. You're playing a lot more. Your body's taking a lot more hits. Your knees and ankles are taking a lot more hits. More people are falling on you and so forth, so on and so forth. That's going to be something you have to closely watch. But you're right. In terms of getting the volume of sacks that the D tackle position got last year, I don't think that's going to happen. You have to keep a close eye on Fletcher Cox as well. Fletcher Cox getting up there as well. And as we've said time and time again, Fletcher Cox plays in spurts, plays great in spurts. He plays like a Pro Bowler one series, and all of a sudden you don't hear from him the next 2 series and vice versa. It's going to be interesting to see how you mix and match this new group of players integrated with the carryovers.
Yeah, and now, look, you can apply some of the stuff that we talked about on the offensive side on the defensive side. No reason to believe Josh Sweat can't be a better version of himself this year.
Right.
He had an excellent year, a breakout year really for him. No reason to believe that. No reason to believe James Bradbury in this, with a I know it's a different coordinator, but a similar system can't be better next year. Maybe Slay gets back to the way he played in the beginning of the year at the corner spot. Avonte Maddox, if he stays healthy, for sure. There's a lot of good. There's no reason to believe that Hassan Reddick can't be a better version of himself. I think the defense, though, is where you have to sort of, it's a little more of a wait and see. The offense, to me, should be a hit the ground running situation. The defense is a work in progress more than anything else.
Hassan Reddick could have less sacks and still be a better player in terms, and by that I mean getting better consistent pressure on quarterbacks. He could be that kind of player. Josh Sweat could have more sacks this year than he had last year. Avonte Maddox, health is the key for him. He plays with such reckless abandon. He knocks himself out of games, as we saw in that Dallas game.
Right.
He knocked himself out. Blankenship is a key in the back end of that defense. Blankenship has a lot of potential on the back end of that defense, but will he hold his own? We keep overlooking Greedy Williams has been added to the mix.
True.
How are you going to utilize him? He's a very good quality cornerback. And now you add him in the mix with Slay, Maddox, James Bradbury. I mean, the depth on this defense in terms of the back end of the defense is unbelievable. And so Desai and Matt Patricia are going to have a wealth of talent to rotate and try to confuse defenses with. I mean, there could be times when you could see 6 DBs on the field for this defense, depending on who you're playing. When you look Patrick Mahomes, you don't think they're going to put extra DBs on the field. Josh Allen, you don't think they're going to have extra DBs on the field to try to combat that passing game as well? Dude, there are a lot of teams that barely have 2 starting corners, let alone 4, like the Eagles have, and then some. And then you look at how they drafted, they get these kids up to speed. If these kids turn out to be what we hope they are, they're going to be 6 deep.
Oh, listen, no question. You're right. If that's the case, these are all sort of best case scenarios, but not far reaches. These are not Hail Marys.
No.
You know, it very well could play out this way. I mean, look, Derek, you look at what this draft, I mean, a Carter and a Nolan Smith and a Keely Ringo, among the others that we're not Steen, that we're not even talking about, Sidney Brown, all of these guys in some way, shape, or form could play a role this year.
I'm telling you, Howie Roseman has done a masterful, consistent job over the last 3 years of building this team, bringing in the right free agents to keep this team where it's going to be this year, among the best of the best in the NFC, possibly the best team in the NFC. On paper, there's not a deeper team in the NFC. On paper, there's not a better quarterback in the NFC. There's not a better offensive line. There's not an overall better collection of of top 2 pass catchers in the NFC. Think about it. Go up and down the rosters in the NFC. Tell me 2 pass catchers who are better than A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith right now. I mean, think about it. You can say, okay, Minnesota has Justin Jefferson. You know, New Orleans has this. You know, this team has that. But you're talking about single individuals. In terms of 2 receivers complementing each other, the Eagles are second to none in that regard in NFC. So that's why from now, and I'll say it all season long until they prove us differently, there's no question, looking beyond what's on paper, that the Eagles have at least the best offensive collection of people in the NFC right now.
Yeah, I mean, you're talking about 2 starting receivers who went over the 1,000-yard mark, a starting running back who I know he's not here, but we're just going off of last year, who had 1,000 yards rushing, a tight end who would have probably been pretty darn close had he not missed, some time during the regular season in Dallas Goedert, and a quarterback, who can throw you for 3,000 and rush for 700, 800. I mean, that's the kind of weaponry we're talking about with a really good offensive line, almost completely returning intact. So I have the bar is set like maybe the Chiefs and then the Eagles are like 3 in terms of points per game and just offensive production. Where I struggle with this a little bit is the other side. I don't know what it's going to look like defensively. I just don't know. And I don't know that fans are taking into account some of the turnover here with this defense.
Yeah, I just saw a comment in the chat that said, put Barnett, Derek Barnett in the unemployment line. In no way, shape, or form is this team ready to give up on Barnett yet. Say what you want to say about him. You can talk about the lost season. Look at the numbers they put up without him last year. We talk about his mental mistakes from previous years. But Derek Barnett does have talent. He has capability. I don't think they're ready to give up on him yet. The contract that he's under right now is not restraining them in any way, shape, or form. The only way Derek Barnett doesn't make this team is Derek Barnett plays his way out of being among the Philadelphia Eagles in 2023. Barnett has the opportunity to come in here and contribute significantly, and he should be self-motivated because he had to sit there and watch what this team accomplished without him last year. If there's anybody, there should be nobody more motivated on the defensive side of the football this season than Derek Barnett because of what he lost last year in terms of this team excelling. He could be this asset in waiting that we're not even counting on yet. We don't talk about Derek Barnett because he wasn't there, but Derek Barnett now has a chance, if he can stay healthy, to make a name for himself. If he can mature, cut down the mental mistakes, do what this team expects him to do, which he has shown flashes of doing, Derek Barnett's going to be another piece to this equation that's going to make the overall product that much better and versatile and stronger in the fourth quarter of games.
Well, I mean, if anything, too, you need depth. You're not going to keep it real here. You're not going to stay healthy the entire season. Guys are going to go down. And Derek Barnett is a guy who at least has been there and played, and it's a critical year for him if he wants to get paid. If he wants to be a guy who stays in this league and sticks around for a long time, he's going to have to improve and be better. Frankly, his career's been a disappointment considering where he was taken, as high as he was taken. He's just been okay.
I'm trying to give him the benefit of the doubt because to me, he's very similar to what Brandon Graham went through the first 5-6 years of his career.
Yeah.
Injuries, not living up to being a first-round draft pick, people turning on him the way they did. Now, Brandon Graham didn't make the mental mistakes that Derek Barnett does and has.
Right. I think he was a little more locked in.
He was more locked in.
Yep.
Now Brandon Graham took the negative criticism to heart to the point where he was blocking people left and right on Twitter.
Right.
But then all of a sudden the light switch came on for him. First the organization, you think about look at how many teams don't pick up a first-round draft pick's fifth-year option. They lose patience with them. This Eagles team has shown patience with a lot of players throughout the last 10 years when you really think about it. The Brandon Grahams, the Mailatas. Josh Sweat, it wasn't all gravy for Josh Sweat for much of his career. The lights was turned on last year for him. Mm-hmm. And Derek Barnett falls in that category. This Eagles organization is a very patient organization and somehow, some way seeing things in players that we don't see on the outside looking in. Then all of a sudden they become favorites on this team. So I think Derek Barnett falls in that same category of no matter how much we chastise him and lambaste him for what he didn't do, what he has not lived up to, I think this team identifies the fact that he has something that he can give us and contribute to us. We have to be patient. We have the luxury of being patient. He's under a contract that's not killing us. Let's play this. Mailata, prime example with Mailata. Look how patient they were with him, and look at what he's turned out to be. So I think this is what Derek Barnett is right now in terms of what this team expects from him. Hopefully, not just expects from him, but hopefully gets from him this year.
If there's a position, either side of the ball, if there's a position that concerns you most, what would you say it is as we sit here right now?
A position that concerns me the most. I would still say it has to be the safety spot.
Okay.
To me, I wanted to say linebackers, but if with the cornerbacks that you have and the frontline players that you have, a lot of teams can cover up any deficiency that you might have at linebacker. Mm-hmm. But I think when it comes to the passing, when you look at the quarterbacks this team is going to face this year, and what was their one biggest problem? Defending the pass at crucial points of games.
Yeah.
I think the safety spot is going to be huge. I think Blankenship has the ability to take his game to that next level. Who's to say that Greedy Williams may not be back there playing safety at some point?
Could be. Yeah, I think that's open. I think there's a lot. Nothing's locked in at the safety spot.
Yep. No question about it. So I would have to say. So who would you say, or what position would you say?
I would say linebacker worries me the most, even though they downplay the position, because I just don't know about Nakobe Dean. It doesn't mean I don't believe in him, but I don't know.
Right.
And Morrow's on the smaller side. I would say I would go linebacker safety for sure. Would be my 1-2. Yeah, they'd be my 1-2.
When I look at Morrow, he reminds me somewhat in terms of size of a Kazir White. And if you remember, Kazir White started off great in this defense, and all of a sudden he faded down the stretch into the playoffs.
Yep.
And, we don't know a whole lot about Morrow, but, physically same type of player. Can he hold up? What exactly is he in this defense? And you're right, with Nakobe Dean stepping in there now, Morrow in there now, the big question mark is going to be, did the Eagles get better or worse at linebacker? And we can't get an answer until we see the games played out. Mm-hmm. And they're going to be tested because you've got a number of teams that are going to throw the football and utilize the run to set up the pass. Will they be able to identify and decipher what they're looking at quick enough to stop these teams from getting 4, 5, 6, 7 yards of real estate against them in the running game? And can they drop back and cover efficiently in the passing game? It's going to be huge for this team.
Right. And look, the defensive line plays a big part of this. Like if Jordan Davis and or Jalen Carter are occupying tacklers or blockers, excuse me, then the linebackers should be able to feast if that's the case. Same thing goes for the safeties and the corners. If those guys are as prolific as they were last year at getting to the quarterback, it's going to make their life a lot easier in the secondary, in the back end. So obviously it's the ultimate team sport. Despite losing Hargrave, I feel good about the defensive line. I do, as strange as that sounds. You're bringing back Reddick, you're bringing back Sweat, you're bringing back Brandon Graham. All three of those guys were in double-figure sacks. You're getting, Barnett back from a depth perspective, but I think Jalen Carter is going to be at every down tackle. Maybe there's less that you have to ask Fletcher Cox to do, and I have to assume that Jordan Davis is going to get better. So if that's the case, I think their D-line is going to be pretty good, Derek.
I do too. I think it has the potential to be really good. But I've got to see these young kids get in there. I think Jalen Carter is a phenomenal talent at the collegiate level. Can he be that phenomenal talent at the pro level? I think he can. From watching all the game film I've seen of him at Georgia, this kid's a phenomenal nonstop motor type player. Mm-hmm. Now you got to coach him up at this level. I think Nolan Smith has that capability as well. But we haven't seen it yet at this level. We've seen them as collegiate players. Haven't seen it yet. I can't wait to see what they look like in this defense. I can't wait to see what this defense looks like. I can't to see, is it basically going to be a 5-2 defense? Is it a 3-4? Is it a 4-3? I think we're going to see a little mixture of everything in there, especially against some of these pass-happy quarterbacks that they're going to face. I can't wait to see how much they attempt to blitz. Desai's not a big blitzer like, Jonathan Gannon wasn't. Is he going to dial up more blitzes with the talent that he has? It's a faster defense on paper, just based on 40 times from Jalen Carter, Nolan Dean, Joshua. It's a faster defense, but just because you're faster doesn't necessarily make you more effective. You got to get home. You got to have that dog mentality. You got to beat your opponent to the punch. You got to constantly be one step ahead of the offensive lineman and the tight ends trying to block you. Will they be able to do that consistently? Don't know yet. Don't know.
I hear you. All right. More football coming up. As I mentioned, we'll dive into the whole GOAT conversation based off of losing Jim Brown on Friday. All right, Derek, we'll come back. There's a little Woj news, which will update you on the coaching searches around the NBA, how they tie into the Sixers. We'll do that. We'll get into the James Harden thing. A lot of Sixer stuff to tie into that we will do when we return. Don't go anywhere. He's Derek. I'm Rob. We're Sports Take, JAKIB Sports YouTube Network. Let's talk about Jim Murray and Principal Financial Group, because I can tell you this. I went years trying to find the right person, not always getting the right answer, someone getting back to me, not really explaining things well, someone who didn't have my best interest at heart. And I found Jim Murray and Principal Financial Group. And to me, there's nothing more critical than investing for your future. Whether it's retirement planning, 401k review, insurance review, you might have a small business. You're trying to get your employee benefits off the ground. That's another resource that Jim can help you with. I've personally entrusted my IRA, my 401k rollovers with Jim, and I couldn't be any happier. You will be too. Give him a call, 610-996-4751, 610-996-4751. You can also email him as well, Murray, Murray.Jim@principal.com. That's Murray.Jim@principal.com.